Alrighty, welcome to another episode of the One Last Cast podcast. My name is Jonathan. How's it going, everybody? And actually, it's been a while. A little bit out of practice with this. Also need to introduce my co-host here, Merriel Solesky. Say hi, Merriel.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Sorry for the confusion. The last couple weeks have been a little bit hectic. I had a lot of personal stuff going on, so we had to reschedule to today. And also today is a little bit earlier than normal because we have to pay homage to our Houston Astros who are playing today at 7 o'clock against the Phillies. Go Stros. We are based out of Houston, for those of you who did not know. I don't know about you, Merrill, but I'm looking forward to watching the game after this.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it myself. I'm hoping we have a better game than we did the other night. That was pretty hard to watch.
Yes. Before we get started today, I definitely want to give a shout out to our sponsors. We have DSKA, Dirty Towels Kayak Anglers. If you're looking for a kayak group to join and ask questions, be part of a community, go ahead and join up over there. Awesome people and a lot of good information on there as well. Also, 4A printing. If you're looking for custom towels, that is the stuff that we have, shirts and even stickers and all that. Give Aaron a call, and he will be happy to help you. And of course, Knock and Tail Lures. They are my go-to soft plastic, and I will be using them forever. Just that internal rattle that they have in there just entices the fish to bite. And I've been using them the flounder season, even though this season is closed right now. The flounder's still around. They are one of definitely my go-to ones to target for flounder. So.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. Speaking of that, you think we should do like something for like people doing like catch and release for the whole, just get them engaged to fish anyways for flounder, and just do catch and release pictures or videos, and maybe give
yeah.
another prize out for that.
Yeah. Did you have something in mind,
Man, I
or
have a lot of stuff in the back that I can give away, like cool little swag bag and
okay?
lures and
Okay.
good
So
lures, not the lures that nobody throws.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but
So
some of my favorite lures, I'll probably stack it. Like, I usually, when I send people care packages, it's usually stuff that I like throwing, not my throw up box or anything like that. Those
yeah.
end up usually just getting donated. So, but
No, that's great. I guess for everybody listening on online or on our podcast, by the way, we are live every other Wednesday. We try to be every other Wednesday at 7 p.m. except for today. So, but if you want to find out when we go live and potentially get on this flounder CPR kind of thing that we're going to do, just join our Facebook page at facebook.com/one last cast podcast. On there, you find our up to date information, our past episodes that you can watch. And of course, if you're strictly want to listen to us on podcasts land, then just go to your favorite podcast streaming service: Amazon, Apple, Spotify, etc. Um, so yeah, be on the lookout for something like that. We'll definitely try to do a flounder CPR thing where you can potentially win a Merrill Solesky swag bag. That's what we'll call it, a Merrill Solesky
yeah,
swag
that's
bag.
cool. Yeah.
Okay.
And then yeah, also we got today. Are we gonna do are we giving away a reel today, or just gonna go over the questions and then do the giveaway reel? That way we just that way we know
Well,
how.
yeah. Today is going to be our mailbag Q&A kind of episode. We get lots of questions, online on our Facebook page, Instagram, everywhere, and just sometimes, Meryl and I are pretty busy, and we just don't have time to answer those questions. So we've kind of accumulated some of the ones that we have, as well as we opened up the questions to as many people, everybody. And if you ask a question today, today's November 2nd, you or have messaged us in the past of having a question for us to answer, you'll be entered to win a Shimano Sahara C3000, the newest Shimano Sahara that they have out. It's a very good reel. And basically, after the episode is over, I will just do a randomized generator, and we will randomly select somebody. So, unfortunately, if you're listening to this on podcast, you won't be eligible to. But if you had joined our Facebook page, you would have known that we've been doing this kind of all week. So,
Yeah.
just be on the lookout, and um, let's just go ahead and get things rolling.
Cool.
Um, I have a question from Phil. Phil Guerrero. He's constantly on our our podcast page, and he's also usually live with us. What's your preferred knot with braid to fluoro?
For me,
Yeah.
uh, man, I don't. So I went on a fishing trip with Jonathan Spencer and a couple people in Florida, and I showed him this knot, and I don't know if it has a name for it or if there is a name for it, but it's basically like you just do like a loop with both your braid and your mono or fluoro, whatever you use, and you just twist the loop a couple times, then you feed the line through and you tied it
Hmm.
tight, right? And then you just cut the tag in. So I don't know what if anybody knows the name of that knot, then feel free to share it. That's the knot that I use, and it's only like a foot long, so it is skinny enough. If I want it skinny enough, I'll do a crazy Alberto knot, right? I'll
Hmm.
use that knot if I wanted to go through the guides if I need a longer leader. But usually my leader is only a foot, and that knot usually stops at the eye. So
What?
when I cast it out,
Wait.
yeah,
Your leader's only a foot?
about foot and a half, yeah,
No, okay. Like mine's like I give like
20 feet, right? It's
yeah,
all the
20
way
foot.
from
It's
it's all
all
the
it's
from
all
your
leader, you know.
yeah. I just got
No,
like maybe like 20 feet of braid.
yeah, no, I think for me it's about 2 foot, maybe a foot and a half, like you said. The reason being is especially now with flounder, when I'm targeting them, I'm fishing next to structure, so I'm fishing rocks and all this like pilings and stuff like that. And whenever especially if you get a bigger flounder, they will dog you, and they know where all of these little structures are.
Mhm.
So fishing with these structures and the fluorocarbon or the mono leader that I have, it's mainly fluoro that I use. They will rub against the rocks and it will hold up. It does its job. But whenever I get the fish and I release it, um, and it's all torn up, so I constantly like clip, retie because I don't want to be that person who loses that like 10-pound doormat,
Right,
because
right.
I had
Oh,
a shredded leader.
just so you know,
So,
every time I lose a fish, it's 10 pounds. So just so
mm,
you know, it's
yeah.
10 pounds plus if I lose a
Oh,
fish.
yeah. It's that elusive 10-pound that
Yeah,
10-pound
yeah,
trout that you
yeah,
lost.
yeah. No, man,
Um,
I still lose fish, dude. Like popping my line even sometimes, but I think fluoro holds best. I agree with you on that. Yeah, for sure.
yeah, and,
Are you a swivel guy?
no. Well,
Um,
what do you mean by swivel? You're talking about,
so that
like,
was one of the questions we got, and I'm probably just
okay.
jumping ahead. So, Chuck Way, he follows us a lot and he shares our posts and does a lot for us. He said, "Are swivels good or bad, or somewhere along those lines?" Probably, I don't know if you got that question on there.
No, I do have it, but
How does he word it? I'm just jacking it up. I probably know I'm
no,
wrong, but
it's basically like, our, basically our swivels. When is it appropriate to use swivels? Um, and and for me, like, it depends on what you define as a swivel. I will say that. So I use power clips, the tactical angler power clips to quickly change out lures. And it just depends on how lazy I am because sometimes I'll just ties directly to my leader. Um, or if I'm really lazy, sometimes I just forgo the leader and tie directly to braid. um, but uh, I do use the power clips. They're not technically a swivel. I consider a swivel. It has that barrel kind of thing where it can
right,
spin, um, and definitely not the swivel clips uh, that you see on like those bull redfish leaders.
right, right, right.
Yeah, I've seen those before, and people are like, "Oh yeah, I can quickly change out my lures with that." And to me, those are it's There I've seen those fail more often than my power clips have. The power
Okay,
clips, the only time I've ever had fail, is when, um, is when I use an improperly sized lure, as in probably like a jig head, and I force it into the clip, and
right.
I bend it, and that's the only time I've ever seen it fail. So that's for me a swivel. I don't normally use them. I wouldn't use them. Maybe if you're doing like bull redfish stuff, but even then, I just see them fail so often that I don't want to deal with that.
I do
So
use them for bull reds. I do
yeah,
use swivel for bull reds. I do use swivels like mainly for my offshore fishing. like my bigger gear fishing. I think I even got no. I got a swivel clip. I think. Yeah, I got a swivel clip for me when I tie on my like if I like what I've been doing for tarpon is coon pops, long leader, but I change out the leaders with the lures already tied to them, and I just hook them on that clip swivel.
Mhm.
So yeah, I use it mainly for just like offshore, but I use them a lot. I use those Mighty Max ones too.
Okay.
Or yeah, go
I
ahead.
will say those swivels. You mentioned like tarpon. Um, I I still use my traditional setup with like your fluorocarbon leader and the power clip. I will add a swivel for spoons because you need them
Right.
to
Oh
not
yeah.
to not like twist up your line.
Right.
Some of the spoons, like the your casting spoons, they don't have like a swivel built into it,
Right.
and I'll add my own to make sure it does what it needs to do. Um, so yeah, I guess it depends on your situation. I think that would be the answer to that question.
Yeah. I think some people they use it for like they use swivels for inshore fishing. If I'm not mistaken, to switch from braid to mono or fluoro, they put swivels on it, and I think it works good for their application. And I'm not saying that this way is the best way or
Mhm.
not. It's just everybody has different preferences. If it's working for you, man, stick to that. And if you're catching fish the way you're doing things, and it seems unorthodox to other people, but you're successful, just keep doing what you're doing. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, but the reason why I would advise against that and go to going back to Phil's question, what's your preferred knot? With braid to fluoro. For me, I use a uni to uni knot.
Hmm.
I use a modified one. I don't think it's a correct knot, but it's worked for me.
Right. Right.
I for some reason like I keep looking at the diagram and I was like, I'm doing what it's supposed to be doing. It doesn't look like a uni to uni knot,
Right.
and I don't know what I'm doing wrong. But it works for me, and so it's a modified uni to uni knot, and that knot I can bring up through the guides of
Right.
my rod. Um, and it's something not something less to think about. Whereas if you have a swivel, I would not bring a swivel through your guide. You will
Right.
probably break the insert or just break the tip out.
Mhm.
And I've seen that happen before too. So, and
Oh,
especially
good
when you have
point.
it,
That's a good
if
point.
you have a good fish on, the last thing you're thinking about is like you're just focused on trying to get that fish out, landing that fish, and you're just reeling and trying to get that right. Especially in a kayak, you're trying to get that angle right, and that's just recipe for going through your eyelet and just cracking it or breaking it. And that's the worst part. If you crack it, sometimes you don't even know until your next couple casts, whenever it just like shreds your line.
Right.
And now you realize you have a crack in it. And your rod's no longer. That's it. You can't use it until you get back and repair it.
Yeah,
Um,
I didn't even explain why I use my knot. So the reason I use that knot is because it's simple, quick, and fast. I can tie that in less than 10 seconds. That knot, um, and and sometimes when the fish are biting or you're on fish, you want to hurry up and get your bait back out there. That's the reason I use that knot. But if I have a lot of time, I like the uni to uni knot. I like the crazy Alberto knot. And if I have time to pre rig it, I'd probably do those you know, over that quick knot that I usually do. But
mhm.
most of the 9 out of 10 times, I'm always on the rush. I'm always
Yeah,
trying to hurry up.
yeah, yeah. I think you'll find if you start fishing a lot, uh, fishermen are very lazy people.
I agree with you. Like everything you're saying is like, yeah, I do the same thing.
Yeah, yeah, it's fishermen are inherently lazy. It is a sport. It is an activity for us to relax. That most of us go out there to just relax. It's fun. And there's the proper way to do it, and then there's the shortcuts that we start taking to get start doing things. And I think you will develop. Everybody will develop their own kind of shortcuts as they find. Um, and like I said, for me, I started trying to do the union knot, and I ended up developing something that's similar to it, but I don't think it is the uni knot in it, but it
Right,
works.
right.
So
Yeah,
maybe
that's
I would
good.
I
Uh,
won't do that whenever we do like tarpon because I don't want to lose a tarpon.
right, right, right. Yeah, I've lost plenty of this this season.
Yeah,
I think I'm gonna go ahead and say this, and I'll be. This is my opinion. People might disagree with me, but I'm okay with that. But I think this was the best tarpon season we've had in I mean, that's the best tarpon season I've experienced. I mean, those are
I mean,
tons and tons of schools out there, and
thanks for
I
the
got
invite.
yeah, Yeah, you could come, man. The crazy thing is, I invited a lot of people, and I was like, nah, man, I can't. Or some people came with me. Appreciate you guys that came with me, but most of it was like I'm going during work days, and people are working, so
Yeah.
you know.
All right. So yeah, we have let's go some other questions. We have I have one from JC Garza here. I think this is actually a very good question for beginner kayakers. He's looking for recommendations on an entry level kayak that won't break the bank. Currently, I have my eye on the Hoodoo Impulse. Um, so let's just go through like a very quick rundown of some of your favorite entry level kayaks. So let's say somebody came in, um, their budget is max $500. What would you say?
A used Tarpon
Yeah.
120 or man, that was my first kayak. I mean, I'm supposed to tell you Hobie. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
If you
A
find it,
Hobie compass. No, but I mean, my first kayak was the Tarpon 120 and the Manta Ray 12. Uh, yeah, those were my two favorite ones. The Manta Ray was a little bit more stable than the Tarpon, but the Tarpon was fast. And then the old school Tarpons, I felt like were a little. I don't. Maybe it was just me. Maybe I had a better centered balance, but I kind of felt those were stable too. So I don't. I don't know if it's just me. Maybe I was younger and had my center balance better. But I definitely love the Manta Ray, and those are. I think you can get those used for that price. I'd get in those and they're tough kayaks. They're gonna last you.
yeah.
What do you think?
I was going to say for me, it's on the same vein as that. For that price range, my recommendation would have been actually is also a Tarpon 120. But also, if you wanted to go a little bit even more budget friendly, maybe around the 250 range, because a used Tarpon 120, at least in the Houston area, you're looking at $300 to $400 roughly. You can definitely find some deals on them, but the one that I would look for is a Perception Pescador
Hmm.
because it's an old tarpon mold.
Right.
It's the same thing except for those go for like 250, 250 300. Um, so that would be my
Those are
recommendation.
heavy though, aren't they?
No, it's the exact same as a tarpon. It's a Wilderness Systems Tarpon 120. It's the same mold.
Oh, okay.
Um,
I remember my buddy Jameson having one of those, and I just remember
it's
that kayak being heavy.
it's
Maybe
not
it's
the
different.
pro. It's not the
Okay,
pro. It's
all right,
they currently have the Perception Pescador Pro.
right,
And those are heavy.
right.
It's the OG Perception Pescador.
Okay,
Those were originally a tarpon Wilderness Systems tarpon mold, and they had like a 12 and a 14 foot. I think now they just have a 12, and but you can find those, and those would be a very good entry level kayak. Below 500, so you should be able to have an extra some money left over for your PFD and other accessories that you would want. But then if you go up from there, roughly around, let's say the $1,000 range, what would you recommend?
a new, a new Manta Ray, a new
Yeah,
Target 120. But yeah, um, yeah,
yeah. For the $1,000, roughly around the $1,000 range, I would look at a used like Jackson Cuda, um, because I just really like those seats. And the Cuda with the very very nice paddles, a little bit on the heavy side for like a kayak, but for as a fishing platform, I think it's very very good. Um, and usually you can find those around the $900 range, maybe around 1,000, maybe a little bit more depending on how beefed up it is.
right.
Um, but then now you're looking at like the $1,500 range, and this is when you start to get into
The
the
Hobie
the
compass, the lower Hobies, right?
yeah
Hobie,
the lower end of the pedal market.
yeah.
Um, yeah. So what would you say for the $1,500 range?
Oh man, like a used compass.
Yeah.
Pedal range pedal I like the Hobie compasses, man. They're pretty durable, and they're fun. You could throw them in the back of a vehicle. They're not heavy at all. Yeah, that's my. And just so you know, not all kayaks are the same. So I mean, I can't tell you how many people I've taken out fishing. So if you book a guide trip with me, you're gonna be in either a Hobie Outback, depending on what you're comfortable with, or the PA or the PA 360.
You need to
And
get
those,
them into a Revo. Jeez.
yeah. So I got a
Let's show.
Revo, right?
Yeah.
I got one, so I ended up getting one. So I got one just to be fast. 13, 13.
There you go.
Yeah, but yeah, so not all kayaks are the same. Um, Definitely try to do demo days, try to get out there, try different ones. Don't go and buy one that's like the cheapest one on sale and then say, man, kayak fishing blows. Because that's usually what I get a lot. You know, people, they book a trip with me and they're like, man, I didn't know kayak fishing was this fun. And like, I didn't know it could be like this. And it's like, yeah, man, it's just probably because of the quality. And, you know, I recommend spending a little bit more money on quality. So,
Yeah. One of my favorite stories I like to tell about kayak fishing was whenever I worked at FTU and I was in the kayak department. There always be these people who, they're shopping to the store and they'll end up wandering over to the kayak department and they're like, they'll talk to me to stop fishing. Like, yeah, I tried to get into kayaking, I just didn't like it. It was so difficult, and and more often than not, this is back in the day. I know they've gotten a lot better. More often than not, it'd be, what kind of kayak did you use? Oh yeah, I just got like the Ascend from Bass Pro, uh, and I'd be like, well,
I went out in 2 3 foot swells.
yeah, it'd be like,
Yeah.
well, they'd use the Ascend and they'd like, okay, you use the Ascend, and you use their stock paddle. Yeah, I use their stock paddle. Okay, and what did you bring with you that day? And it's like an ice chest filled with stuff, my
Beer
tackle
and
box. Yeah,
yeah,
and I'm like, well, that's kind of your problem right there. You're taking everything with you. You're treating the kayak like you would treat a boat, which it kind of, it is a boat, but it's a much smaller boat.
yes,
And it's gonna, that's for in terms of paddling and everything, it's not a good time.
mm,
Um, and then that would be my key into like, hey, we have these Hobies here to rent.
yeah, yeah.
They're $35 a day. Let's put you in one. Just
Back
try it
then it
out.
was $35 a day.
Yeah, yeah. Back
They're
then it was
not
thirty five
35
dollars.
bucks a day.
Yeah, they're not anymore. But back then, $35 a day. Try it if you like it. You'll we have them here. They're for sale. Just let me know. And more often than not, a couple weeks later, you know what? I'll try it. I'll get in a Hobie or a native. I'll get them into native. Oh God, they're $100 a day now. Dang.
I thought FTU was like $75 a day. I'll double
It's
check
still,
that.
it's not 35 a day anymore. But
Yeah,
they try it out and be like, man, this made a huge difference.
yeah.
And
Then
then
they're I'll buy one, right?
yeah,
Where do I
yeah, yeah.
sign? Yeah,
Yeah, it was basically like tax return season came and they came and buy
yeah,
one.
yes, yeah,
So,
yeah. I
yeah,
think
so
this year I think we had at least 6 customers that were like, "Yeah, I'm getting one," and they
yeah.
ended up getting one. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
hope.
but for the Hoodoo Impulse, I do believe so there is gonna be that market for the entry level pedal market. Hoodoo is they I think for that price point, it's not a bad option. I would
Right.
definitely like just
Really good people too. Like, by the way, I mean, really good people,
yeah.
really good customer service. I'm not going to sit here and say anything bad about those
Yeah.
kayaks or those people because they're really top notch and they're really trying to make a name for themselves. They've
Mhm.
been giving away a lot of free kayaks to these tournaments to push their products out there. Now, I'm not sponsored by them at all, but I just know those people and they're really, really good people and they definitely take care of their customers. And I like their products, so it's not, you know.
Yeah, and actually, I won one of their kayaks.
Oh, you did?
Um, a couple years ago, it was a charity auction for Heroes on the Water. I bid, and one of the things was their the Hoodoo Impulse kayak, and I bid on it, and I ended up winning it. But for me, where I have like 3 4 kayaks, Hobies in my garage, I bid on it just to bid on it, support Heroes on the Water. So I had it for a little bit, and I ended up what I ended up doing was just selling it, and whatever I got my money back, and whatever profit I made, I just donated that to Heroes on the Water again. So,
Oh,
you
that's
know,
cool.
yeah, it was
Yeah, man.
just that's because I talked to them, and they're like I'll mirror everything you said. They're awesome people trying to make a name for themselves,
Right.
and good customer service. So I think you
Speaking
can.
of heroes on the water, you want to mention anything
What about what?
now?
No,
Oh,
what
we
am I?
got a turn. There's a tournament coming up with saltwater
Oh yeah,
survivals.
yes.
Yeah.
November 12th. Let me.
What's
Yeah,
that
November
weekend?
12th. November
Okay.
12th. It's a team tournament, team redfish tournament. Yeah, go ahead and enter. The proceeds will go to Heroes on the Water, the Galveston chapter, and it's next weekend. So if you're hearing this this week, it's going to be on the 12th. So go ahead and go to Saltwater Survival Series, search them online, and you can sign up there. Great and awesome tournament. I'll be entered in it. Are you going to be fishing it, Merrill?
I want to say yes. I might just go ahead and buy an entry, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, I get to fish it.
Okay. All right. Let's continue with our questions. We have a lot of questions to get through. So, Stacy Gentry, she's always one of our favorite posters on our page. I know she also has a question in the chat too. But what are the advantages of having reverse drive?
I love it, man. I love it. I mean, I like Ford. When I first got reverse drive, the word game changer was out there. Like everybody was saying game changer, and it really was, and it really did change the game because positioning in a kayak is everything, right? And back in the day, you had to pick up your drive on a Hobie and then turn it around and drop it in there. But you make all that noise when you drop your kayak drive in there versus just pulling the string or backwards pedaling on those propulsion drive ones. Man, those things are yeah, that's a definitely yes for me for my style of fishing. A reverse is a must. I also have a 360, and that one there, I mean it's even for me. It's even more more of a tool as you're fishing, especially up against docks, to be able to turn and go sideways or go at a diagonal by docks, and you're pulling out redfish from these pylons and whatnot. So yeah, that 360 is even better, my opinion.
Yeah, for me, so earlier I was talking about how fishermen are inherently lazy people. Also, fishermen are also don't like change.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, whenever the 180 came out, and for me, having worked on drives at FTU, you know, so there. Let me. This is my analogy here, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. Back in the day, you would hear like, "Oh, all these people they can work. All these guys they know how to work on and girls, whoever wanted to, they could work on a car motor. They know how to fix it. They know how to do all these things with it. And a lot of people nowadays don't know how to work it, fix it. I would argue the reason why people could work on car motors back then was because it was less complex than it is now. Obviously, if you put in the effort and you can learn how to do it, but and I think back then it was much easier to work on those because it was a simpler kind of mechanic, kind of the engine itself was a little bit much simpler than it was today. I was in that boat when I looked at the 180. The original Hobie Mirage drive was like it was it looked complex, but it was very simple. You had this spine system on there, surrounded by the pedals and the chain, and that's basically it. It was it's very simple and ingenious system that they developed for propulsion, and then you're starting to add all of these things to it. You have
Like
the
sprockets
the
and
sprockets,
yeah,
and then you have like the bearings in it now.
yeah,
Now you have the 180, the pulley that you
yeah,
have, and of course, you also now have kick up fins too, where you have
right,
kind of things that go into it,
right.
and it gets more and more complex. So I was like, man, if I want to go backwards, I'm just going to flip my drive around, and I held on to that, and of course, I just at the time I couldn't afford. I had my 2013 Rebo 13 Revolution 13, and if I wanted to turn around, I'll just flip the drive around. And um but after getting my hands on a 180 drive, yeah, it's a game changer.
Yeah, and so here's the thing: is it's like this is so I probably busted 15 drives, maybe somewhere around there. So what I've learned is this is probably common sense for everybody. If you take care of your gear and not just throw it in the back of the truck, throw it in the back, and you sit there and you wash it off, keep it clean, your drive will last longer. When I first started with ACK, I think my first year I busted 2015. I busted 5 drives my first year. Next year, I think I busted like 4 or 5, maybe 6. And then but I was like going over oysters. I was pushing through mud. I was hitting stuff. I was bending my shafts. but I wasn't really taking care of it. Now, like what I do, if I come in up shallow, I pull up my drive, right, put it in the back, put my plug in, so I get in shallow, start using my paddle, and then like I just started taking care of my drive a lot better. And I have a year and a half, 2 year old kick up fence that hasn't even been maintenance. Like my kick up fence I haven't had any issues with them. So I just goes to show, I mean, just maybe, you just got to take care of your gear, man. Don't be hulling them out and be like, man, these drives are no good. You got to take care of them.
Yeah, I for me am notoriously I am notoriously bad at maintaining my stuff. So like even with my 2013, I had a turbo drive, GT turbo drive. I never took care of that thing at all.
Those
And
things
but
are tough, though.
no, no,
Those
no.
were like tough.
I upgraded in like 2019. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
2019 to my current Revolution 13. Between then and that 2013 and 2019 ish, I serviced a drive once,
Right.
and it was bulletproof. Like I
Yeah.
never, and I think the reason why I serviced it is because I bent a rod because I ran over like a rock or something like that.
Yeah.
And so that's not even really a service; it's just like going home and just unscrewing it and putting a new one in.
Right. Right.
And
That
now,
was a lot of work, though, because I mean,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And now with the 180 dry, I have had it serviced twice, but a lot of it was my fault. I ran over another rock and I bent the rod. I bent both rods
Man.
actually. And at one point, one of the drive chains failed.
Mm.
Like in the middle, it just snapped, and I actually still fished that day because the other chain was intact, and I was pedaling around basically with one fin. Um,
Nice.
so it still worked, but
There you go.
those drives are awesome. Uh, anyways, let's continue on. We have
Right.
so
Right.
many
Yeah.
questions.
We're
Yeah,
only three
yeah,
questions deep, and
I
it's
know.
already 36.
Yep. So if your goal, this is from Jacob Otter, if your goal was to catch a Texas Slam, what time of year would yield the best results, and what would you throw? Any other techniques, advice like location, time of day, tides, etc.
See,
A drain now.
right. Yes. Yeah. So, Justin, yes, you did bust one of mine, and I will call you. Um, but yeah, this time of year, right?
Yeah.
October, November, um, and I don't. So I'm not. I'm probably gonna piss a lot of people off, but you know, I don't mind sharing spots. I'm
Okay.
just.
I'm gonna mute you right now.
Yeah. I know there's a lot of stuff going on TV or on the internet about spot burning and people burning my spot and whatever. I don't think anybody owns any spot, to be honest. I used to be like that. So Justin's probably sitting there laughing, like, ha ha, Merriel, I remember you telling me to never show anybody this spot. But like the more I think about it, man, fish move. You know, I'm totally over that whole fish move, and so should you. And so I'm gonna give you a good area, that I don't say much. But Seawolf Park is a good area to catch all three of those. And the funny thing is, it is right now. It's a good area, good time, good spot to catch all three
If you know how.
if you know how, right?
Yeah.
And if I was gonna throw one lure, man, I'm starting to like these. I like fish a lot of these knocking tails, and my favorite color is the roach one, roach, and yeah, it says Texas roach, and the white and pearl, white and truce one. That's a pretty good one. I'm starting to like throwing those. Uh, yeah. So
Yeah.
those are the two colors, and maybe I'll throw in the what is that color? C.
Oh, like the money one or something like that, or
Nah,
I
yeah, the most
I for,
common one that
I
everybody
forgot.
likes throwing the
The
C's.
salt pepper.
No,
No.
it's like green.
Oh.
Well, anyways, I'll think of it like tomorrow or something.
Yeah, yeah. But oh, is it this one right
If
here?
you ask him like what's his favorite color, no, not that one. It's
Oh,
more of a
okay.
common color. It's like one of the basic colors.
Yeah, for me
So
it's
there's
like
Texas roach.
it's plum chartreuse and the white truce one that you talked about. Those are my two ones that I throw.
Yeah,
Um,
plum chartreuse is a good one too. Yeah.
yeah. But for Jacob, for me to answer your question, Seawell Park is actually I have caught a slam there. Is actually during the summer. Whenever we would go there, what we would do is that we would at Seawell Park, we'd go into the park. Obviously, we park in the outside and walk in on the left hand side. It is Chicken of the Sea. That's correct.
Chicken of the Sea. That's
Yeah.
what it is.
So we'd walk into the park at Seawolf and during the summer, and on the left side of the park, we'd wade there, and there'd be tons of trout. Um, and I will say that there's actually one day there were so many trout that were in there. We're actually using bare jig heads, and they were biting it. Like you just cast
Mhm.
it out and bring it in, and like you'd for every single every like 15 dinks you get one keeper, but it was a heck ton of a fun, because
Yeah.
there's just like so many fish in there.
Yeah.
I also caught like a 4 pound trout on top waters, like right next to the rocks, and then a dolphin ate half of it. So, but,
Yeah, I was gonna say that's where Dolphin likes to snack on those bad boys.
oh yeah, yeah. And then we moved to next to the pier, and we started catching a couple of flounder sitting around there. And then we moved to the outside. Along the way out, we were leaving. We saw like a slick pop up on the outside of the park, and we hopped in the water, and it turned out to be a bunch of redfish.
Mm,
On the channel side. So we
right.
just like, oh, there's our slam right there. But as some people has pointed out in the chat, now would be a good time if you really. I think it's easier now because if you can target a drain, like find a drain. You have a good water source in the back, and if you listen to a few episodes before, we kind of dissected how to look at drains. It has a good water source in the back, outgoing tide. If you sit at that drain, I could probably guarantee that you would eventually catch a slam there because
Even if you spend 3 nights there, you will
yeah,
catch a slam.
eventually you'll just catch a slam. But you basically all this water outflow coming out. The flounder are going to be there. The redfish are going to be the back, and the trout are going to be out here. It's just I've caught so many slams that looking at drains. You know, so that would be my advice to you for if you wanted to do that. Um, let's continue going with
Yeah.
Austin. Austin Matthews. When it's at its coldest in December and January, how deep do trout actually go? Can you still find trout shallow? And what is considered to be too shallow to fish in the wintertime? That's actually a very good question.
I've caught
Um,
him in 27 feet before. I've caught trout at 27 feet with fishing with a half-ounce jig head. I think what's his name makes some bugs with half-ounce jig heads. Bugs lures. He
mhm.
makes some pretty heavy ones. But yeah, I've caught him at 27 feet before. Do I typically target them there? Not typically, but if they're not on like 10 to 15 feet, I'm going deeper. So I'm
Yeah,
trying whatever
I
works.
haven't. I don't think I've caught him that deep. I think the deepest I've caught him was like 18 foot. So I generally fish on the shallower side. 18 feet is kind of like the max that I would ever fish. Um, and you know, how deep did the trout go? They can go wherever they want to go. They'll go. Generally when it's colder, so they will go to the warmest areas that they can. But at the same time, they will stay near the area where they know food will be. Um, so and generally, whenever it warms up, like a cold front comes through, it drops to like let's say 20 degrees or whatever. It gets real cold. They'll just go to the deepest spot they know. And of course, Texas Park and Wildlife will actually close down some deep areas, like the deep hole, the deep blue hole over in Offits. They'll close that
Right.
area off because a lot of fish will just congregate over there. They just know that it's deep over there. They are protected from the cold. But whenever it warms up after that cold front goes through, um, a lot of the bait fish will start moving up to as they'll go up to like knee deep water to look for food. And of course, when it warms up and the bait fish go up there, the trout will go up there too. So there has been times whenever after a cold front goes through or when it's really cold, like I told the story I know before, it was like 40 something degrees. It was really cold, and I was catching fish on top water because it just warmed up. The fish were up shallow, and I was throwing top waters, and they were just blowing it up. Um, so it just kind of have to kind of monitor the cycles that they go through, and you'll figure it out. If you know the trout in the area, you'll start deep or start shallow and just work your way down or work your way up, depending on how you want to do it. Generally, I start shallow because fish are very hardy creatures. Unless it's like 10 degrees outside, I probably won't. You know, at that point, I'd probably start deep instead of starting shallow. But I usually start shallow and work my way down. So,
Right. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. They do go shallow though. I've seen them where they're just like real slow, moving slow and shallow waters. So, yeah. But yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, from DC Nguyen here. What is the best lure to throw when sight casting for reds in shallow water? Or what is the best approach? If, for example, if the redfish is literally 3 foot on the side of the kayak, what do you do to get him to bite without spooking him?
Man, that's a good one. The only thing I like to use smaller baits when they're being stubborn, and then I like to keep throwing at them because sometimes they won't. You know, you cast once or twice and like, oh, they're not biting. But if you sit there and you just keep throwing, keep throwing, keep throwing,
You
it
piss him
actually
off
paid
enough.
off. Yeah, yeah. So it actually paid off for me that doing it that way. And that's something that I've kind of explored new with is just keep throwing at them, keep throwing at them. And I think I was watching somebody's video and I was like, man, that made me think, so I'm also learning too, so, but, I watched them do that in their video and I was like, man, you know what, maybe if I just keep throwing at them as they're running around the kayak or by the kayak and see if that works. And yeah, it's been working for me. Just keep throwing at them. And, I try to use smaller baits and I try to match what's in the area. If I see a whole bunch of like shad or small shrimp or stuff like that, I'm actually throwing smaller baits that they might be feeding on
Yeah.
or
I will
profile.
say go to generally for me, usually throw a quarter ounce jig head. If you're sight casting, specifically sighting casting redfish, I would go to like an eighth ounce. Uh, because that lighter weight won't make as big of an impact on the water to spook the fish. And of course, like you said, go for a smaller profile. Um, I mean, the name of the game for sight casting is making sure that you can be not only quiet but also accurate. So you need to be able to get in front of the fish and get that cast right where you need it to be. Um, if the redfish is literally 3 feet on the side of the kayak, number one, have they seen you? Because if they've seen you, it's not going to bite anything, no matter what. Even if you get a perfect cast on it. But if you see it and they're just cruising around, they're not aware that you're there. If you can pitch something light right in front of it, because it's 3 foot, it's right there. Um, you know, you'll see what happens. So,
Yeah, you might get lucky.
yeah. We have Miguel. I'm not going to pronounce his last name because I don't know how. What's your opinion on the Shimano DC reels and saltwater?
So mine's been holding up pretty good. So I have one. I have two of them. I have the Corrado DC and I have the SLX DC, and they've been holding up pretty good. I like I said, it's one of the things I take care of now. Kind of just don't keep too much. Like I'm not dunking it. If it gets dunked, it's obviously going to go in and get maintenance, right? But if I'm just like fishing saltwater, so and sometimes these like your kayak fishing, these reels are like right above the water. They're right in your kayak. They're going up and down with you, getting splashes on them, dirt on them. So you just got to make sure you take care of them and keep them clean. And if you have issues with it, I'm guilty of this, but take them in to get maintenance. But I used to fish with that sucker until it stopped reeling. Or, you'll see me out there casting and it's doing all this squeaking and squealing. And, I'm doing a video and my reel's louder than I am. But it works. So I'm still throwing it, but
Yeah.
no, try to stay on top of it.
Yep. I would just defer to Merrill because I don't have a DC reel yet. So Merrill's raking in the cash because those suckers are expensive.
Shimano's been good to me. So
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
not rich by any means.
We have a question from Gabriel. He actually won a prize pack probably last year. He's
Oh,
been
sweet.
a steady listener of ours. He's currently in Wisconsin, and he's never fished up north before. He brought his kayak with him. Anything that I should know differently from fishing compared to down here?
Yeah, don't listen to anything we have to say because we're fishing. Nah, man, I have no advice. I mean, I fished up for bass, up there for bass, north, and I did fairly well, but it was just talking to the locals. That's what I did. Hey, I talked to the locals, went to the local bait shop. Hey, what are y'all throwing? How and 9 out of 10 times those people are friendly. They kind of give you the heads up what to throw, and guy actually gave me the right location, bait to throw, and I was fortunate. So my advice is ask the local people there where you're fishing, see if somebody's friendly enough to share.
Yeah, I would like for example, we have DSKA here, 30 South Kayak Anglers on Facebook. I would search up the local kayak group in that area or fishing group in that area and just say, hey, I'm from out of town, have my kayak with me. Any recommendations that you get? Yeah, you're probably gonna get some of the same snarky remarks that you get on like on our pages here.
Yeah,
But
just ignore them.
ignore them. Yeah, for every single snarky remark, maybe you get a piece of nugget of information, and you can use that information to figure out what you're gonna do. Where to target, what's biting, um, and I would actually say that still listen to what we say, because fish are fish. Yeah, they act a little bit differently, and they're a different color, and a completely different species,
Yeah,
but they're still fish, and they I wouldn't doubt. Like I've used bass tactics to catch trout and redfish. I've used of course, if you go to Louisiana, they'll use like buzz baits, and they use like what do you call it, chatter baits. They'll use those to catch redfish, uh, and it's just basically applying what you know about fish here, and it probably will work too. But at the same time, bass fishing is a whole other ball game. There definitely there intricacies that they have in there, and just dive into the local scene and see what information you can get out of it. Um, and let's see. Um, let's actually go over to now our the questions that we've gotten on our live stream right here. Which, by the way, if you want to join us live, you can go to facebook.com/one last cast podcast. We're live every Wednesday. We're answering questions right now, and you can find out when we're next live on that Facebook page. Tommy Atkins, he's seeing that jerk baits are becoming popular again. What lures that were used by older generations should still be in everyone's tackle box? What bass lures would you recommend to catch saltwater baitfish if a bass fisher wanted to catch the main three? That's a very good question too.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Tommy's got the best questions, and I
yeah,
think he knows the answer to most of them. But hey, thanks for the questions, Tommy.
yeah,
Tommy's an avid fisherman. He's not like crazy on Facebook, but back in the day, he used to be posting big catches, big fish, stuff like that.
yeah.
But yeah, me, man. So I was a catch. What did he call me? It was an old timer. But I used to go out to Rollover Pass when it was open and throw the catch 2000, and I used to let it throw it out there and just kind of go with the current and wiggle and boom, stick big trout. With that way, so catch 2000 was one of my favorite. I guess would that even consider a twitch bait? I don't know. What do you think?
Well, that would be a twitch bait. He's saying this is a
Yeah,
jerk bait. So,
like a
um,
jerk bait. Like is that like a Yozuri?
yeah, like a Yozuri.
Yeah, okay. Well, I used to throw Yozuris too. I think Justin got me hooked on those. I used to like the clown one, and I like the clown one. And at night, I'd fish a different one, but for daytime, I like the clown one or the redhead.
Yeah, I don't typically use jerk baits. I actually just found a bunch of like H2O Express ones from Academy on clearance, and I'm trying to figure that out right now. Um, so I'm learning that.
There's like
But
100 ways to work that. So I mean,
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know if there's a right way or wrong way, but I mean, I kind of work it like where it's swimming. I don't know if you see my hand, but it's swimming like fast and then it comes down or swims like that and
yeah.
pop. It actually comes up. It swims like this and comes up, and then sometimes I'll just rip it where it's just going real fast, or sometimes I'm popping it, or sometimes I'm slow retrieving it,
For
and just
for me,
different tactics.
I mainly do the ripping where I get it to the depth that I want, and I
Right,
just rip with the rod and just pause and let it
right,
float up, and then rip
right,
it again, and it will come up. So
right.
that's where I know like Merriel they have their jerk bait that's coming popular again. Um, but yeah, I can't really answer that question. What
Yeah, I like throwing those at night. Those are my favorite time. Those are my favorite baits to throw at night. I think my buddy Justin, me and Justin used to get out there in a kayak and throw a lot of those twitch baits at night. We had all kinds of different ones.
yeah,
Ones with ribs on them, like the ribbon things on them. Yeah, but mainly Ozuris though.
yeah.
So
And to answer the question, what bass lures would you recommend to catch saltwater bayfish? If
Six Sense has been pretty good. I did pretty good with Six Sense. What do you
I
think?
would I would go backward to the chatterbait.
Chatterbait?
Chatterbait is just especially if you fish those like um I mainly have used them in like brackish water, and I've done really well with them. Redfish will hammer that chatterbait. Like I've had one of the most awesome things I've ever seen was I was using a chatterbait, and I brought it to the surface like I was getting ready for another cast, and right as I came out of the water, this 26-inch redfish just came out of the water and ate it, like
Oh
right next
wow,
to the
that's big.
kayak. It was just, it leaves up so much vibration, so much flash, and of course, like I had it had a knock and tail lure on the end of it, so I even had the rattles in the back, so it had all this stuff going on,
You
and the
hated that
water,
noise.
yeah, the water was like really dingy, so that's why I was using it. So that's something that I would that I think would work really well if you're trying to catch all three. I've had one trout on it. I haven't caught too many trout on it, but I wouldn't imagine why they wouldn't eat it. Um, Yet to catch a flounder, but again, I wouldn't imagine why they wouldn't eat it because it's just as long as you drag it on the bottom, you're in the same area, they'll eat it. That would be my recommendation. So,
Yeah.
all right, let's keep going. Uh, uh, Somebody's hitting on you, Merrill, on the chat.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, it's my buddy Kyle.
yeah,
Y'all go visit Kyle at man, dang, I can never remember his group.
kayak fishing, Texas.
Yes, yeah. Oh, see, you remember?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He always got tournaments going on. He's always got a lot of good stuff going on. He gives away a lot of stuff. And he does a really good job on tournaments too. So they got their tournament thing going on. And pretty good
Uh,
group to follow.
there's this person named Brittany Solesky asking if you're single.
Unfortunately, I'm not.
Mm.
But
So we have Justin here. Justin Simpson. You mentioned him earlier. Do different braid makers make the same pound line but with more or less diameters? Like, do they have the same? They have different diameters than others, but still 30 pound. I don't think so. So he's asking, like, if you get a 30 pound line from, let's say, Suffix Ed through two, does Suffix Ed through two make a 30 pound line, but also that's even thinner than that one that they have? Um, and Yeah, I don't think so. I haven't seen a braid maker who has a 20, 30, 40 pound braid that has like two different versions of it with a thinner diameter.
oh, the same company, not two different
Yeah,
companies.
yeah.
Okay, okay, yeah. I
Each
was like,
company is different. Each
right,
company is
right,
different,
right,
but
right.
yeah,
Yeah, I know they got like 4 strand and they got like 8 strand and they got different strands. Um, and maybe the different strands. But I'll be honest, Justin, I never really paid attention to the diameter when I'm getting braid. Maybe that's a good thing to do, but I
yeah.
just kind of buy what works.
Yeah, I think especially now, for me, I really like using my Corrado 50. The problem with the Corrado 50 is like you have like no line capacity with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I that's the only time I ever pay attention to how thin the braid is. Obviously, I love my Suffix Statue too. I have a bulk spool that I bought of 20 pounds, and but whenever you have like at the 50 and you basically get like 80 yards of line
Yeah,
on one reel. I think that's when take a look at that diameter. I haven't seen one. Justin says that that someone said they did.
a different
Pro-
maker. He's saying though that
yeah.
I think that didn't apply to his question because it's a different maker, right?
Hmm,
They make it
yeah.
different, but doesn't. I think not all 30 pounds are created equal.
Yeah.
It's a different line. Yeah, especially if you're buying like that bootleg Power Pro or that bootleg fishing line, and yeah, make sure you buy the original so you have less issues. I bought some online Power Pro one time years back, and
Yeah. No, don't do
it
that.
just yeah, I learned the hard way.
Yeah.
That's typically how I learn. I
Yeah.
wonder if anybody else is guilty of learning the hard
I'm
way.
just saying that the quality control of some of these like knockoff Chinese braid, some of
Right.
it is good, but like sometimes the quality control is not the best.
No, no, it
Yeah.
isn't.
I have bought one before. I think it was on Wish. Yeah, I bought it on Wish because it was like $3 for like a little spool of it. Um,
You're
and
like
like I
score.
yeah, I was like, what's the worst that can happen? When I got it, I opened up the packaging. It was like there was this residue on it,
Oh
and
man.
like it was like it's on my fingers, and I like, oh, maybe it's just like a film that they protective film they put on it. And it was really funny because whenever I spooled up my reel with it, it left like streaks on my rod because I used the rod as like kind of like to kind of guide it into place with a when I
Right.
spool it. Um, and it was like basically it ended up like accumulating a little bit of like dust or something like that. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to use this now. This is weird. And
Powder coated.
yeah, I don't know. Um, but anyways, how about you, Meryl? Did you have any other questions from any of your people that you had?
Yeah, and I feel bad because I didn't write any of them down.
Oh, okay.
I do have some on the message, and I know we left out a lot of questions because I know I saw a lot of different questions on different
Yeah.
pages, and we missed a lot of them. And apologize for that, but we'll eventually get around to them. I mean, I
Yeah.
usually respond to some of the messages like on our feed, and I didn't do that in the last one or maybe the one before. And I'll go back and go through those and stay on top of those. So
Not a problem. Like everybody who did send in a question, I did put down their name, and I will do later tonight. I will randomly generate it for a winner for the Shimano Sahara C3000. So be on the lookout for that. See if you're a winner. And of course, as always, if you have questions, send it to us. We love hearing from y'all. Recently, we actually one of our winners for I forgot what we sent him. We sent him a reel. Um, uh, and he was actually listening from New Mexico.
oh,
Um,
sweet.
and he found us because he likes fishing, and apparently frequently travels to Galveston, and he brought his kayak, and he caught his first redfish
Sweet.
in Galveston, and that was awesome to hear.
Tell
And
them to send us a picture, man. I'd that'd be pretty cool. Send us a picture and we could put it up on our, our deal that we have right
Yeah,
before we
yeah,
go
yeah,
live.
yeah, for sure. But yeah, send us your questions. We're always happy to answer them. And you know, again, apologies for our the schedule being delayed. But if you want to find out when we're gonna go live next or when our next episode's coming out, just join us on facebook.com/, one last cast podcast. Or if you're just lazy and you just want to listen to us, find us on all of your podcasting platforms, Amazon, Spotify, etc. Um, so yeah, that we I know we have lots of questions to go, but we'll continue going through them as much as we can. We'll maybe save them for the next episode. Before we hop off, Merrill, anything you want to mention to our crew here?
Yeah, if you can send us pictures so we can put them up on our right before we go live. The more pictures. I know some of y'all sent some pictures. We're sharing those, and the more the merrier. We appreciate you guys, and send us your pictures.
Awesome. Before we head off, let's give a shout out to our sponsors again, Dirty South Kayak Anglers. If you're looking for a Facebook group, go ahead and take a look at them. Awesome kayaking information there from the Texas coast. Um, also join our Facebook group, our Facebook page at One Less Cast Podcast again.
Yeah,
And we have 4A Printing for our custom towels and merch. Contact Aaron; he does awesome work, and you know he will help you get what you need created. And of course, Knock and Tail Lures. If you use code OLCP 2022, you'll get a percentage off on your next order. Actually, I think if you search and go find their page, their official page, they may actually have a greater discount right now. So go ahead and take a look at that. But as always, thanks for listening. We do this for to help build our fishing and kayaking community here in Galveston and in Texas. We want you guys to do well. So stay tuned for another episode next time. But until then, tight lines and have a good one.
take care, guys.